Hello, everybody. My name is Amol Patel. You're watching the Smoking Hot Coffee Show, where 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday, we talk to founders about their startups. I'm joined with...
Hey guys, I'm Jeff Pelton down here in San Diego.
And today we have a great interview with Paul Berger from Skyscraper.io. He is a very scrappy founder. They've actually got a seed round of $500,000, $500,000 in the bank, and they are trying to help bloggers make money doing their passion, following their passion. Jeff, give us more detail about Skyscraper.
Yeah, it's really an awesome product to help the bloggers who are out there creating content that they're passionate about, and that's kind of where their skills end as far as being web technologists or business people, right? So if you're out there, blogging about recipes or cooking or whatever your hobby is,
crochet or a bike, what do they call it? Bike polo? Yeah.
Yeah. And so anything that you're creating content, you're blogging about consistently or whatever, and you have an audience of people who are also passionate about that topic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the big problem in the world that you and I have talked about with our show even is that the off-the-shelf tools like Google's AdSense and the other advertising tools really don't add up to much. You put them on your website, you show some advertising for people, and you're really collecting pennies on that.
Yeah. Pennies. It truly is pennies. And, this is not a problem just in blogs. It's a problem in video, YouTube, same thing. So a lot of these people are very passionate, blood, sweat, and tears, hours and hours of work. They're making some pizza money, burrito money, nothing to really live off of, and that's just the way it's been. And so Skyscraper is trying to change that. And, obviously they touched a nerve because the first guy they brought it up to, Max Teitelbaum, loved the idea, wrote him a check. And based on that, he was able to leverage AngelList and get the attention of other investors, and the snowball started to happen. $20,000, $30,000 checks started coming his way. I'm sure it wasn't as easy as that. But, either way, they stuck it out, and they've got a decent amount in the bank now. Hopefully that'll give them a little bit of runway. They've got a couple of devs on board. I think the team's about 6 people. It's all distributed. We talked a lot about what it's like to be a distributed company, what the workday feels like, what are great tools to keep everybody in sync. Jeff?
Yeah, definitely. How they, are able to attract great talent everywhere. The design is a huge part of their product, which we really love. It just makes it that much more attractive and, appealing to people, especially people that aren't very technical or business savvy about the whole the process in the back end. So it was great. We had him show us a little bit of the product, so you could see the polish that we're talking about. And there were even some neat things in there, right? Like, Amul, what do you think about the press kit, right? Like, there were some really handy tools.
Yeah, I love how it auto-generates the press kit. That's really great.
Because the way I look at it, there are just a plethora of these bloggers out there writing great content, and they are not experts in business, marketing, and advertising.
Absolutely,
so this tool really just fills in for those, let's call them, they're not professionals, or they're just kind of laymen in the industry, and but they have great content that could be monetized, and so Skyscraper is helping them get paid.
Yeah, and so AdSense is an alternative, but it's just something. It's very very few people actually live off of that, and I think Skyscraper's trying to change that. It's definitely a worthwhile cause. I think based on just the initial investors that they've got people that believe in what they're doing, and it's a huge market, guys. I mean, even if they get a 0.1% of the bloggers and able to get them paid, they'll just grow. I can't see it's such a huge market. This is not a zero-sum game. There is plenty of room for AdSense, for Skyscraper, for other competitors to get in this market. I think there's going to be a huge business in video monetizations for people that are doing some awesome videos but aren't making enough money on YouTube. This is such a great business. I mean, if I wasn't doing this with you, Jeff, I might want to get into some kind of business like this. But I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So let's see if we can keep this rolling. But it's funny I mentioned that because honestly, even for ourselves, we're constantly talking about how we're going to monetize smoking hot coffee, or how are we going to make enough money. We can't really throw up AdSense because we're not going to make much money. I know we've put up ads on our videos on YouTube. We have, what have we made, like 3 cents off of that thing?
Yeah, like 50 cents. You know, I basically have been putting advertisements on the oldest videos we have that I don't want anyone to watch. You know, so I'm making them pay for it by watching an ad. But yeah, in reality, we've followed this in the industry fairly closely. We've looked at some of the other leaders, right? Like out of LA, the This Weekend team with Calacanis and some of his shows and some of his commentary on the industry and being a YouTube partner and whatnot. Has a lot of implications. It's very difficult, even if you're at this top tier, top echelon, right? We've been tracking YouTube trying to help creators monetize and how difficult it really is.
It's really hard.
Even Google is unable to really crack this open. I think one of the difficulties is obviously scale when you have these direct buying methods and things like that. Hopefully they can crack this open. And there's just so many people with this problem that are like out there like we are with our show trying to create great content and figure out a way to get paid for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, my hat's off to these guys. I hope they keep fighting the good fight. I think they will. Paul seems really committed to it. And they've gotten some money in the door, so that's great. And I wish them the best luck. Actually, I think they're going to do really great. I have a feeling.
Yeah, they have a great team of advisors and investors, and we go over that in the interview. I think they've definitely got the right influences around them to make this work.
I mean, these guys move. He's not a San Francisco native. He moved him and his wife and his partner and the wife moved to San Fran. So they're all in. They're not messing around.
Sure. Yeah, and real quick, you mentioned the no zero sum game and whatnot. I think this is an untapped market. So I think the WordPress people and people like you and I that are like semi-professional are like kind of scratching their heads going, this sucks. But there's so many people, I mentioned like Tumblr. I think there's so many people now that are publishing content through Tumblr that aren't even thinking about making money on it or the professional aspect to it yet, because it's so new and early that maybe they're just getting Tumblr users with enough audience that are starting to go, oh wow, maybe I can monetize this. So I think these aren't people that you're not taking these people away from AdSense. You're not taking them from anything. You're taking them from nothing to making something. So I think this is tremendous if they can figure this out. If they start getting some lead content creators to start adopting this and then telling their peers about it, other content creators, it could really spread like wildfire.
Right. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned in this video. We briefly talked about how to balance the marketplace because essentially that's what they are. They're a marketplace. So we're doing this Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live. Please subscribe to our show on YouTube and iTunes and tell your friends and family, especially if they're in the startup world, to check out the show. Jeff?
Yeah, if you know anyone that's trying to start a company or interested in this, please do send it their way. I think there's a lot of interesting lessons and insights learned, even just from the little tips and tricks and stories that we hear.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of little gems in our videos, definitely. And if you want to reach us directly, please email us at info@smokinghotcoffee.com, and we will definitely get back to you. We received a lovely email yesterday, and it made my year.
Yeah, we're gonna, like I said, we're still gonna respond to that email on the show when we get a chance. Once we put some thought into our response.
Absolutely.
The questions asked, but we really do appreciate it, and we will continue engaging with you guys, our audience.
Yeah. So with that, let's cut to our interview.
All right.
Joe Paul, how you doing today, man?
Good, guys. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Great. It's our pleasure to have you.
So we were introduced to you via Max Teitelbaum from What Runs Where. And and you mentioned earlier off camera about your Vancouver stay, a little Canadian thing. So is that how you guys met? How did you guys originally meet?
We met through one of our advisors at Skyscraper, and she'd met Max at I think a conference, and she was basically like, this kid's whip smart.
Yeah.
You need to talk to him. He knows ad tech really well. So we hopped on a call, and Max actually I think wrote the first check, to be honest.
Right.
Awesome. based on screenshots, and just was super into the product and really kind of knew the space and was like, yeah, okay, I'm in. So.
Wow.
It was a good meeting.
I have to tell you, man, Max is so smart and so young. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, and he should be paying us for this little promo that we're doing for him right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't the first promo we've done for him in this format
exactly,
either.
Right?
Yeah, he's really smart money, as Amul likes to say. I think
For sure.
he knows the industry so well. I can't think of a better advisor or investor.
Yep.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and he's great because he just like he's got me on Skype, so like every once in a while he'll just pop up and be like, "All right, how can I help? Like, what do you need right now? What can I do?
Oh
What can I
man,
do?" So
That's cool.
it's awesome. Yeah, definitely.
That's great, great. So
incredible.
what in the screenshots, the mocks that you show him that lit his eyes up? Like, what was it?
Um, I can say this because I didn't design it, but I think it was probably just one of the sexiest UIs ad tech had ever seen,
Ah,
and
Wow.
I think it was just like ad tech is so sort of traditionally unsexy.
right.
It's like
Yeah,
it's kind of tables and numbers, and it's
right,
just something that doesn't usually get the same kind of attention to detail that like consumer web apps get
right,
or some of the sexier stuff gets. So I
right,
think that
right,
kind of jumped out at him,
right.
and we just kind of hit it off. I mean, he's young and we had a really good time and just kind of really liked each other. So I think that was kind of a good thing as well.
Right, right. So you brought up an interesting point that design in this circumstance really helped kind of push that needle, uh,
Yeah.
as opposed to some other metric.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something that we focus on a lot because we just feel like we can get into like how we kind of ended up working on the problem in the first place,
Yep,
but
yep.
we just felt like it was a space that just hadn't had a lot of attention to detail and hadn't kind of really, thought about design to solve the business use case. And because we were kind of playing in the kind of mid to long tail publishers, people that kind of needed to understand a product and make it really easy to use,
Right,
we really think about design as being the one thing that can solve that problem at
right.
scale.
Oh, very cool. All right, so let's get
Interesting.
into the nitty gritty. So tell us, what is the problem you're solving? How did you come up with it? How did you find your teammates? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so I'll kind of backtrack a little bit to where we were when we kind of started thinking about it, and then that'll kind of lead nicely into why we're here today. So I was working on another product called Cargo. It was a marketplace for independent artists and
Yep, yep,
designers,
yep. Very
and
familiar with that. Very familiar with them. Yep.
yeah, so we were sort of on both sides of the equation. We were on one side trying to monetize some of our blog content through ads, and realized just how incredibly hard that was
Right.
for someone who was extremely passionate about a topic, but not necessarily like wanting to get a degree in in online advertising. It just
Right.
like the whole world seemed like incredibly fragmented and complex and just sort of inaccessible to the average Joe.
Okay.
And then on the advertiser side, we were also trying to find great sites, great niche sites, well-designed sites that we could put our brand in front of. And we were spending just like hours and hours and hours scouring the internet for those sites. And I thought if there's a way that we could kind of make that discoverability easier, we could really kind of match those two pieces together. So I was at a conference in Salt Lake City a few years ago, and I ran into it was actually it was like a very female focused design conference, and there was like literally about three guys in the room,
Wow.
and one of the other guys was Jacob, who was working on a product called Wantist at the time, and we both basically like gravitated because
Yeah.
we were
The
the only
two
guys in the
dudes.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we started chatting about like the parts of our day that really sucked, and it just turned out that we were both kind of faced with the same problems, and so it sort of took us a while though. I think that was probably like in January, and we started kind of like hanging out on Skype because he was in Portland and I was in Vancouver, and we were starting to hang out on Skype, and then the idea started to percolate a little bit, and eventually I think it was like in August. I was like, fine, like get on a train or get on a plane, come up to Vancouver. We'll lock ourselves in a room for a few days, and we'll come up with something that we want to work on. And
Okay.
and so we did that, and we like the sort of like serial killer type room with like sticky notes all
Yeah.
over the place and
Yeah.
like all these crazy ideas.
Right.
And so we came up with this idea that was like we wanted to recreate that feeling that like when you move and you open up that one box and it's got like all your old photographs in it,
Okay.
and you spend like you're supposed to be like unpacking the kitchen, but you spend 9 hours going through old photographs.
Right.
And so we were like, why don't we try and recreate that feeling on the web, like with all this data that we're all creating all the time? Like, why don't we start trying to recreate this like nostalgic feeling and collect all that data and put it into a really pretty place?
Okay.
And so I think we left that room. We're like, yes, we know what we're gonna go work on. And it's gonna be awesome. And like 3 days later, I was just working at my house, and I tuned into the Facebook F8 event.
Okay.
And they launched Timeline, and I was just like, ah, shit, like that's not going to work out. All of a sudden, there's like this massive 800-pound gorilla in that space. So we kind of went back to the drawing board and kind of back to our original discussion, which was like, what really sucks in our day? And we came up with this idea that no matter how good you are at producing, content online as an independent publisher, that world still really sucks for you.
Yeah.
It's still really hard.
It's really hard
to make that a good go, So
when you say a good go, you mean actually have a living income is what you mean.
Yeah, or like subsidize your income at the very least. Like,
Sure.
We just felt that most of those publishers end up at the sort of AdSense default.
Yeah, AdSense
And like,
default, yeah.
Anybody that's tried it that has like, a good audience knows that it takes like a year to reach the kind of minimum threshold.
Yeah, listen, man, I definitely know AdSense is literally like a $20-$30 a month type thing, and you can't live off of that. I mean,
yeah,
maybe a few burritos here and there, but
yeah,
that's it.
Exactly. Yeah, so like that's like the kind of, right. Yeah, so that's like kind of like the high level problem that we're trying to solve. Is like we're just trying to take like that world, because I fundamentally believe that like those content creators are adding tons of value to the world, right? And I think there's got to be a way for us to kind of help them get paid for that value.
Yeah, it's a huge noble effort. So let me ask real quick. You're now taking on the other 800-pound gorilla, right?
Right. So yeah, I mean, taking them on. I don't know if we'd see ours. Yeah. So like. Yeah, so
a little bit, right? I mean, we're kind of saying Google's not doing a good enough job of monetizing for these bloggers.
Right. And so what we're essentially trying to do is drive them towards a more direct sales model. So like direct sales is where the higher CPMs are, like especially if you have like a niche targeted audience, like you can do direct.
Yeah, do
and
direct
it can
sales,
make you like you can get those CPMs up.
Yeah.
The problem with direct is that for the publisher, if you're like a one-man team and you're trying to publish like a food blog and you're trying to do direct with like 20 or 30 advertisers, it's game over. Like,
that's a lot of work.
You don't have the cycles. Yeah, so
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedicated effort. It takes a lot of calling. It takes a lot of hand-holding. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
no,
like,
it's a great idea, man. And I'm glad you guys are out there doing this. This is great.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So when was this? When was all this stuff happening? Like,
so the locking ourselves in a room was August of 2011.
Okay.
And then then the conversation came out. So Jacob had been doing a startup in Portland. I'd been doing a startup in Vancouver, and this is 2 years ago. I think those startup ecosystems have fundamentally grown since then. But at the time, it really felt like we wanted to go and play on the big field and go and kind of like do this thing. If we were going to do this thing, we were like going to go into advertising. Okay. Like we wanted to go be where the big fish were. So I think returned home and told our wives that we were moving to San Francisco, which God bless them, they were very supportive of.
Yeah, and, you guys going to go all in. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And then we started the company. It was like I was still like very much Canadian at the time. We started it in Delaware, which I'm not entirely sure if that was allowed or not, but like we started a Delaware corp, and and then started I started bouncing back and forth, spending a good amount of time in the States, but like just taking meetings, and then we still have a Canadian sort of subsidiary, so we were working from that.
So are we talking late 2011 here, or
this is early 2012.
2012,
yeah. So this
okay.
is February. Actually, we moved in. So I grabbed like an Airbnb, and I think the day we all kind of came together in San Francisco was Valentine's Day.
Wow. February 2012. So you and your wife and your buddy and his wife, all four of you guys descended San Fran. We're gonna make a go of it.
Right.
We're gonna do direct sales for the smaller blogger and give them a little bigger piece of the pie, and also obviously take a percentage for yourselves.
Yeah, exactly. That was the start of it, and yeah. So then my wife is a U.S. citizen, so I started my green card process, which I sort of optimistically was like, yeah, it'll take a few months. Like, how big of a deal can it be? And it took way longer than that. So, but yeah, then finally, kind of like we all settled in the city and got to work. So, and then we released So then from there we got accepted into a program called Grow Lab,
Okay.
which is an incubator that started in Vancouver but has some of their founders here in San Francisco, and they were great and let us kind of go through most of the program in San Francisco.
Oh, very cool.
And then
that support
yeah.
structure is so huge. Of course, being in San Francisco, the energy of all the startups there, that of course helps.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Is that your main reason? I mean, because there's a lot of ad tech in New York. Of course, New York's the big hub for advertising. Why is San Fran?
Well, because we're predominantly a technology play, right? Like well, obviously, like the advertising ecosystem is going to be, paramount to our success. There's a part of Skyscraper that's almost anti-ad tech, and so like the relationship part of ad tech, the advertisers, and like the Madison Avenue of New York,
right.
I think is eventually going to come into play for us. But right now, we're a technology play that is trying to really kind of disrupt ad tech with design. So San Francisco felt like the better place to get started, and then I think we'll gradually kind of move to having a more of a presence in New York. In fact, I'm planning on heading out there pretty soon.
Okay, so let's go back to the Grow Lab. So you did the Grow Lab thing. At which point you guys started mocking up this thing? You start getting on the phone, trying to get a hold of these bloggers, let's say foodies or whatever.
Right.
Figuring out what problems they were having. Like, tell us about that.
Definitely. So we were kind of fortunate in that through our previous startups, we had a really good list of, at that point, friends that were bloggers and that kind of were starting to kind of really be vocal about the problems they were having. So the sort of customer dev part of it was pretty straightforward. I still have, a handful of friends that I'm like, hey, we're thinking about this. Like, does this help you or does this solve your problem? And so I have a really great sort of personal network of people that are right in our wheelhouse.
Right.
So we really leveraged that. Grow Lab, I think we had a pretty basic product banged together when we started Grow Lab, and we refined that over the 3 months that we were there, because we obviously all kind of leading up to demo day needed to have a product out in the world. So we released a kind of very MVP product in August, and what happened there was really interesting because we'd had we'd been talking to maybe a handful of bloggers and just trying to really refine what the problem was that we were working on.
Okay.
But we opened our doors as almost like a test. We were just going to see does anybody actually sign up for this?
Sign up for this thing. Yep.
Yeah. So and we were like, look, if we can get like a couple hundred publishers, we'll be in great shape.
Let's talk about that, because this is really important to me. So you got the MVP together. Did you throw a little bit of money in Google, the CPC, and try to drive some traffic to it, and with a landing page with sign up? How did you do that?
Yeah, so we used a company here in San Francisco called LaunchRock to kind of generate some buzz,
right?
And that was good, and we definitely tested some AdSense stuff with messaging and very A/B tested the landing page to make sure that we were kind of talking about the product the right way and making sure that people were actually starting to resonate with what we were working on.
Okay.
But we took a bit of an unconventional approach when we had the product together. We just kind of opened it. And we were just let's just see if people will, because it's a product that you kind of need to get into the flow of it, and you need to kind of get through the setup. So we wanted to see if that was going to work.
Okay.
And so we were our proof point was if we can get a couple hundred publishers through this thing,
right,
and test the waters, we'd be in good shape. Okay. And what happened was all of a sudden we ended up with we got some press, and all of a sudden we had a couple thousand.
Beautiful. I love it. Wait, hold on. Let's talk about this. So press. So did you and your partner, did you orchestrate? Okay, we're gonna hit Panda, we're gonna hit TechCrunch, we're gonna hit BetaBeat. How'd you handle the press bit?
Pretty naively, I would say. I think so. It was basically just me reaching out to writers, and I was incredibly fortunate that a lot of them were really supportive. I certainly.
Okay.
And we got, we sort of orchestrated a little bit. So we knew that demo day was coming up, and we knew that we wanted to have people step into that room and not be the first time they'd heard about it.
Okay.
So we sort of orchestrated this little press dance, and got some really great publications to write about us about a week before we went on stage at demo day. So by the time because that was going to be our biggest sort of our biggest exposure moment that we'd had, right? Like we are going to have 200-300 people in a room listening to a 5-minute pitch. So we knew that we wanted to kind of blow that moment up.
Who did write you guys up? Who was the press?
Oh, well, the usual suspects. There was TechCrunch, and then VentureBeat, and then there was a publication in Toronto called BetaKit.
Okay.
And then a great publication. It's in Canada, but the guy that I know is in Vancouver, called Tech Vibes.
Okay.
And,
awesome. Yeah,
and
Tech
so,
Vibes. Yep.
Yeah, and then of course, like, all the other stuff, like the Financial Post, and like all those, they all pick up those stories, and kind of like it's snowballed on us a bit, and so that.
Wow.
Great problem to
have. I have to tell you,
it's,
Paul, this sounds great. You guys got a lot of press really early on. That's huge.
Yeah, amazing support from the press, and they continue to support us. And so.
Did you do the A/B split testing before you hit the press, just to see if you got the messaging right, or did you say, "Holy cow, we're getting hundreds of people. We better." How did you do the A/B split messaging bit? During the press stuff.
That's a good question. I'm sure we were testing. We were always testing.
Okay.
I'm sure we were testing something. We use Optimizely, which is a fantastic product.
Excellent. So give me some examples. What's a good thing that you A/B split tested? Just a headline, big call to action? What was that?
Yeah, so like if you can see our landing page there, the things that we test are our head, our subhead, and then the button text for sure, like our big call to action text. We're actually working on a revamp of that page now to sort of, as you go deeper into the page, it gets a little bit more in depth and stuff like that.
Okay.
So we're working on some tests on that stuff. But what we're really focused on now is optimizing our onboard funnel and actually making sure.
So Jeff, can you scroll up to the top there? I just want to. So we've got an image of a woman, looks like sunset, and she's got her it looks like she's listening to some music or something.
Yeah.
And it says blogger's best friend. So.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing right now.
So that's a test headline. So I think if you reload the page, maybe you'll get another
hit reload
one.
on this. Check out, see what the other one's there.
I might have to clear my cookies, right? I forget.
Yeah. But so blogger's best friend, that's very warm. The image is very warm. It's a very sort of warm, friendly thing. You're finding that works? As opposed to like hard numbers, make $400 a day from your blog finally, or did you guys throw dollars or
so our sort of take on that is that most of our customers, like the money stuff is kind of a means to an end, right? Like they don't blog because they love money. They blog because they love parenting, or they love fashion, or they love food, or like the money allows them to keep doing what they're incredibly passionate about.
Right.
And so we like going in there and being like, we're gonna make you thousands of dollars, and it just didn't feel right. So the whole vibe of Skyscraper, and hopefully everybody picks up on it, is that like we're about empowering people to do what they're passionate about,
right,
and making sure that they can get paid for that so they can continue to do it, because we believe that like those great independent publishers are adding so much value to the world by putting their perspective on the
Absolutely,
world, so.
I completely agree. So here we got another one called Simple Blog Ads. So here you're battling against the complexity that possibly is.
Right. So like again, back to the sort of design ethos, it's really about design to create simplicity to solve a really complex business problem.
Okay.
So and so again, we wanted to know that there was a lady in the Midwest that was writing about crocheting that could now monetize her site because we've made it so simple for her.
Gotcha. So are there any? Can you remember any headlines that didn't work that well off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head, but I think when we stopped, I think the stuff that doesn't work for us is when we stop being that kind of friendly and approachable.
Okay.
Like when it starts to get too heavy-handed, and not kind of continue on with the theme of simplicity and approachability.
Gotcha. I noticed that your CTR on this, and we'll get off of this in a second, but I'd like to get started as your CTR versus the watch video to learn more. I would personally, I would think maybe the video is the next step, but you're finding that just getting them in the funnel is the next step?
Yeah, we wanted to really get people into the, because the marketing page sort of talks very high level about a lot of things, but what we're really interested in is getting people through the onboard funnel and actually getting to, because the sign up's not a traditional sign up where it's like, give me your email and now you're into the, like, you know, you're a member. Like, there's actually a bunch of steps that you need to take, and as you can imagine, to actually set up and go through the process. So we're really interested, especially once we launched the product.
Right.
We were like, okay, let's see like where this thing starts to kind of bottleneck, or so it was really about driving people through the product rather than kind of the video. The other thing to note is that the video, as of very recently, has some old UI in it, so we need to revamp that.
Oh, I got you. Yeah,
that's always a struggle. I've
right.
The problem as a product manager trying to keep the tutorial videos and educational videos, screencasts up to date with the product that's ever changing.
Exactly. Yeah. So like I did that. You know, we did that one ourselves. So it didn't cost us any money, but it certainly cost time. So it's one of those things that lags behind a bit.
All right, so let's get back to your first pitch, and you got some press. You're getting people signing up. Obviously, you got more than 200. It sounds like.
Yeah, we were. So it was like one of those like really good and bad problems. So it was like, great, we're working on something that people find interesting, but it also exposed a lot of our holes and our weaknesses. So, but what we did was we sort of took that story to the bank, and we basically said like, okay, well, this is interesting, like, great problem to have. We should go and try and raise a little bit of money and actually like build up a bit of a team and actually solve this problem. Because as you can imagine, like, dealing with people's money, there's, CPM there's all kinds of complexity to the product.
Yep.
So we wanted to make sure that the thing was hard and fast, and it could stand up against, dealing with people's money and all that kind of stuff. So. So yeah, from the sort of demo day at Grow Lab, we raised a small round from some really great investors, mostly angel investors. Our lead investor was a gentleman by the name of Howard Linson, down in San Diego.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. He runs a company called StockTwits, and he's got a fund called Social Leverage, and so he came on board and just really loved. He's a big blogger himself, and so I think he could kind of see himself using the product. So
that makes
sense. That was good.
So wait, this is right after Max wrote the first check?
Right. So we got so Max. I think he wrote the first. Let's just say he wrote the first check.
Let's say he wrote the first check.
Yeah, and then we started to kind of accumulate some really sort of specific and targeted angel investors, the guys that knew the space well. A few guys in New York, a couple guys in LA.
So hold on a sec. So Paul, really briefly, I want to talk about this funding bit because that's obviously a big issue for a lot of startups. So you had the early mocks. Max got excited. You guys got some early press. Hopefully you showed him that, and he said, "All right, I'm going to write you a check." He writes you a check, right? Let's say.
Yeah.
And then
I don't even think Max needed that much validation.
Oh, really?
To be honest. Yeah, he was like, he was just one of those guys that I think he invested in us as guys, and he saw the vision for the product, and that's kind of it.
He believed in it. Yeah, he believed in you guys. That's awesome. So all right, so you get him, and obviously it's always hard for startups to get that first lead investor, the first person that write the check, and then usually a lot of them follow. Did you notice the same thing after he wrote the first check? Did you kind of help leverage that to get some of the other additional money? How did that work?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest tools in the world right now is AngelList.
All right, so let's go to AngelList, Jeff. Then.
Yeah, so we use that like in a huge way. We leveraged it as much as we could, and so we basically thought about it as like the lockers in high school, right? Like, how can we generate social proof and get people kind of talking about us, and so we timed our AngelList release to the point where we had some we had early product shots, we had some some traction, things we could talk about,
right?
And then when people would sign on and be like, if like one of my investors I met at a party, and he was like, I love it, let's like I'm in. I'd be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go add you to our AngelList profile, like, are you okay with that? And if they said yes, I would go, and of course that pings their followers.
That is great. That is good. That is good. So, wait, hold on. Let me break this one down. So you would meet these dudes at parties in San Fran and be like, "Oh, you're digging this product? Can I go on your AngelList and what? Just add a comment or add a post or send them a link?"
Well, no, I would like if they said they were going to invest, I'm like, I'm going to go home right now and I'm going to add you as an investor. And so that, it does two things. It's like, are you serious? Like, is this conversation real?
Right.
And are you willing to, to have that be on your AngelList profile? And for the most part, everybody was like, yeah, absolutely, that's great. I love the product. Let's go for it.
Yeah,
So that really helped us. That really helped us get that social piece that without AngelList is very hard to manufacture.
Right. Because the other investors are looking, hey, well, they got 2 investors, they got 3, or they got 4, and then they're starting to see that sort of the tumble, kind of down the mountain. It's already gathering steam.
Right. And so that, and also, I follow my friend who's an investor, and I see, he just invested in Skyscraper. Let's take a look at that company and see if it's interesting to me.
Right.
So that I think AngelList does an incredibly good job of that, and that really helped us out to kind of get some of those good small checks in the door and get people just start having conversations. And there's some just incredible investors on there that are really into investing in teams and will do so with very little proof other than a bit of traction and some great products.
So and when you say checks, I know it looks here you got about $550,000. Congrats on that, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm sure your wife is sigh of relief.
Yeah, I've stopped sharing stuff with Carrie Ann because it's like, when you got like 2 people in the room that are freaking out about the same thing, it's just never a good thing.
It's not good. Yeah. No, that's great, man. It's really awesome. I love it. So what are the numbers are looking like? Are these like $30,000-$40,000 checks? What are the averages?
Yeah, I would say between 25 and 50. And then we got one lead investor who sort of led the round. And then we closed it out with the rest of the people that you can see there.
Gotcha. And so $500K is not a small amount, but it's not a ton. How are you trying to keep the thing super lean? Are you just you and somebody else? What are the steps you're taking there?
Yeah, so we stayed really lean. So we raised the money, and then we said, okay, well, we're now going to really focus on product. So we were going to go out and build this thing that we'd envisioned it to be. And so we spent a couple months sort of really banging the product together. We hired a couple devs and started really working on the product the way that we saw it progressing, and not sort of MVP anymore, but like, let's build a version 1 basically.
Okay.
And so we stayed pretty lean through that, and we're still a distributed team. We, every dollar we spend goes to product and goes into the actual, we really try and make sure that every dollar we spend the customer sees.
Okay.
That's great.
And so yeah, we spent a few months really hammering on the product.
Okay.
And then released that again. It was about 6 weeks ago to the public. So then we kind of came out of beta. It was like, all right, this thing's kind of to the point where it really works well. And we came out of beta about 6 or 7 weeks ago.
Wow.
And now we're off to the races. So now it's more about, not necessarily staying that lean and trying to really go after the big opportunity that we see.
Okay. So, wow. Is there any way that you can log in on the back end so we can take a look at this?
Yeah. I mean, you can sign in. Do you want me to do it, or?
Yeah, it'd be great if you can screen share so you can just kind of walk us through.
Okie dokie.
And if you haven't really used screen sharing, it's on the left.
Yeah.
I think it's like the third icon down.
And you can pick just a single browser window to share.
Yeah, that way you're not sharing your whole screen,
Yeah, let me just get it set up here.
No worries.
It's great. It looks like you also have Arjun as an advisor from Retargeter, who we spoke with on the show.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Another awesome ad tech guy.
Yeah.
He is. I just saw him a couple days ago, and or pulled him aside, and I'm like, Arjun, let's talk about some stuff. And he's just got such a level head. Like, he's just such an incredible entrepreneur that's built his business from the ground up with.
Absolutely.
So how are you able to get some advisors like that?
It was kind of, again, really, I don't know. I mean, I guess probably luck played a good role in it, but we landed in San Francisco and started walking around this town to to anybody that would listen to us. And actually, Arjun came through a good friend of mine named Thomas Knoll, who's working on a great product in Vegas called Clipper. And so he was like, hey, there's this really smart guy. you should go talk to him. And so we talked to Arjun, and he loved the product, and he's obviously, knows the space incredibly well. So,
Right.
so yeah, no, it was
Yeah,
really good.
here's a perfect reason why possibly one would move to San Francisco. I mean, it's just the energy there.
It is pretty cool. I have to admit, like I don't think I quite knew what to expect. But yeah, I mean the energy, the sort of the pace at which things move, and also just the culture, the like. There's nobody thinking, small here. Everybody's like, no, I'm going to go after this like monster opportunity, and
Yeah.
and if I fail, I fail, but if I succeed, it's going to change the world. And that I find extremely encouraging and inspiring. It's you run into like these kids that are like 20 years old, and they're like, I'm going to go change how airplane wings work, like
I
it's just insane. But
love it.
the bravado is incredible.
I love it. I love it, man. I also really digging this UI, man. God, it's beautifully designed. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'll definitely pass that on to Jacob because
Yeah. No,
yeah, he's
and
done a
of
great
course
job.
I'm a huge fan of Proxima Nova, which you guys are apparently as well.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
Love
pass that on for sure.
Yeah, I love
You
it.
little type nerds. It's
That's
awesome.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let me figure this one out here real quick. Screen share, yeah. So I guess I gotta share this one.
Oh, I may as well also mention it on your profile here. It says that you're hiring a UI UX engineer.
Yeah,
I was going to keep talking
yeah.
about how beautiful your design is, and it's obviously crucial to your product, right?
Right, exactly, and that's why, like, we've got an incredible back-end guy named Raphael who's killing it for us on Ruby, and we want to start really kind of expanding the experience on the front end and making sure that that's kind of world class. So we're definitely hiring there.
Cool.
Very cool.
Okay, I'm gonna share this.
All right.
So
Oh, there we go. Yep.
yeah, so this is
Well,
kind of the back end kind of dashboard for a brand new seller.
okay.
It's all very publisher focused. Do you want me just to kind of like walk through a
Sure.
couple
Yeah. Yeah.
screens?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's have a look here. So this is kind of like creating ad spaces. So ad spaces are these containers that people sit on their sites, and we kind of inject creative into them. Starting at what we've done is we've created like a stack for publishers to be able to start with direct sales, but in the event that they don't sell direct, we give them a bunch of things that they can plug in, for the rest of the time, so that they always kind of have something on their site that's performing. in
And
some
what
way.
exactly is this? Is this just an ad for you guys, so you guys possibly find some other publishers or advertisers, or is this just a blank square? Or...
They can do anything really. I mean, they can backfill it with AdSense if they want. So
Okay.
so we give them a really simple way to just pop in AdSense
Oh, okay.
and stick it in there and,
That's
and have that run when they don't do direct.
Okay.
They can run like an advertise here piece of creative.
Okay.
They can do ad swaps with their friends of like, I'm a blogger and I've got a friend who's a blogger, and because that really starts the groundswell for a lot of these publishers. So like, if I come to a site and I see like, oh, here's another blog or another product that I really like, that might push me into an ad buy, whereas like nothing's not going to do much. So
Right.
it's sort of like this perception thing that a lot of publishers do to try and
Yeah.
give them a good start.
Right. Yeah. It's like you almost need to have the ads there to make it feel like, okay, it's worthy of putting
Yeah.
ads on. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Fake
exactly.
ads, so to speak. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, yeah, so like creating ads, really, really simple. We give kind of everything you can see like has this icon that we try and associate with the ad, so that, again, kind of getting away from this like ad tech jargon stuff and making it very visual, so that people can kind of have this visual representation of how their ads are playing out.
Okay.
Inventory is a screen that this is where we can backfill with all kinds of different solutions. So like here I'm running 100% backfill for an ad when it's not sold, and I'm doing that through, like, I've got a script in there, and then I've got a couple images in here. So I'll rotate those 3 images
Okay.
through 100% of the time when there's no ad sold. That's kind of a really cool solution for a lot of these like independent publishers, because direct is hopefully going to fill a lot of their time, but when they're just getting started, it's hard.
Right.
Yeah, and so this makes them look more professional than they are as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then
For
the
them,
last
it might
thing,
be.
Yeah, and then the last thing I'll kind of show you is this media kit, which I
Oh,
love this idea.
this is,
It's basically like, so if you're a publisher and you want to sell direct ads, you got to go spend you've got to go figure out how to get Photoshop or Illustrator. Then you got to go spend like a good amount of hours in your life going to put together this media kit that
right.
you can now email to advertisers
Yep.
that talks about traffic,
Hmm.
talks about social reach, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so what we did is we're like, all that data is available to us. Why not just have this beautiful landing page that advertisers can land on and put in a credit card and upload their creative and away they go.
Wow.
So we built these media kits to kind of be, this is pulling in traffic data from Google Analytics. It's like a little introduction, which topics you're writing about, so that we can like actually match you to advertisers.
Hmm.
I've only got my Twitter in here, but you can do everything from Pinterest to Instagram to YouTube, all your followers, because a lot of these publishers will end up having like they might be really prominent on Pinterest, right? Like they might have 1 million followers on Pinterest,
Right.
and that can be really interesting to a potential advertiser.
Right.
Um, and then of course you've got like what's actually available for purchase on the site, and so we made this like ultra dead simple, where it's like I want to choose this. We update all the pricing in real time, and I
Wow.
want to buy like 100% of this ad, and I want to buy 80% of this one, and then I simply add this to the cart, and it's going to tell me I can't purchase it on my own site,
Right.
but you add it to the cart, you put in a credit card, and away you go.
Wow. And how much? Let's break down the business model. How much? What is a split? Is it like a 50-50, 40-60? What is that?
I'm gonna switch off
Okay,
screen
that's
sharing
fine.
if that's cool.
Yep.
Okay. Um, so I'm glad you said 50-50 because it's a whole lot better than that. So
Uh,
we basically, did we lose
yeah,
Jeff?
Jeff. I don't know if we. Jeff, are you there? Okay, maybe he'll come back.
Okay. There he goes. Um, so yeah, so the traditional kind of ad network model is that there's a lot of salespeople selling ads for you, so they have to sort of take a large percentage, and that's typically what our publishers are used to. We're a lot lower than that. We're still fine-tuning revenue model, but right now we start off taking 15%, and we give our publishers a ton of opportunity
Wow.
to actually work that down. So
15%. That's a very small bit. That's great.
right, and it works because we're going after scale. Like we want volume, right?
Okay.
We're trying to get this thing into the hands of every publisher on the web. It's not just for the select few, which traditionally, ad tech tends to go for.
Right.
So, we scale out to as many publishers as we possibly can, and hopefully, one day we get the volume that allows our 10% or 15% to make sense.
So right now, how many publishers do you have?
We're not talking too openly about those numbers, but I can tell you it's in the thousands.
Wow.
And so yeah, we're adding a good amount every week, which has been really good. And we don't do a lot of marketing. In fact, we don't spend any money on marketing because we are such a small team and so lean. So a lot of that's happening through social and through sort of inbound marketing tactics, like having a great blog, being very active on social, and we write a bunch of content that we hope brings value to the community, so that again, kind of back to the black hole concept that most of these people face when they think about advertising. It's like I don't know how to price this stuff. I don't know where to go to find out
Yeah.
this stuff.
Right.
And so we're trying to really be the sort of epicenter for all that knowledge and all that sort of teaching.
So let's get into the content marketing bit a little bit. How often are you publishing? Is this several times a week? How long are the articles?
Yeah, we write. I'd say we probably publish to our blog about 3 times a week.
Okay.
And it's usually a really good mix of good informational content, something that can really add value, and then again, we try not to take ourselves too seriously. So like I think I did a post a few weeks ago about like what Macklemore could teach us about advertising.
Okay.
So like just trying to have a bit of
That's
fun
cool.
with it. 'Cause
Yeah. Keep
the
it kind of fun and light.
right, because again, like the space is pretty dry at the best of times. So
Okay.
we're trying to add a bit of fun to it. And then of course socials is huge for us. We use it not only as kind of like a channel to reach out to customers and talk to our customers, but also it's quite an interesting support channel for us.
Okay, so are we talking
Um,
just strictly Twitter and Facebook?
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest are our four main, because so many of our publishers are incredibly visual.
Okay.
So Pinterest and Instagram are actually really interesting channels for us right now. Not only are they fairly new, um, but they're just so visual. They allow us to communicate in a visual way to our users, and they're of course there anyways. Like,
Okay.
you know, a lot of our verticals that we deal in are heavy Pinterest users.
Gotcha. I don't know if do you see Jeff on your end?
He says coming back in the chat,
Oh.
but that's all I see.
Oh, gotcha. All right, so maybe he had to restart. So really quick here, Paul. In your opinion, like, what is it going to take for you to move that needle? Now that you guys have kind of fairly stable 1.0 out of beta,
hmm
what is it going to take? Are you guys now, because you basically are creating a marketplace? Are you trying to go after the brand advertisers, or are you trying to get more publishers on board? What is the focus the next 5 to 6 months?
Yeah, the focus for, I mean, so we all know creating a two-sided marketplace is not easy.
No, it isn't.
You end up having to market to two very different people. We are we've been very focused on the publisher side. You know, we've been very focused on creating the best tools for, you know, independent publishers to be able to manage and sell their ad inventory.
Right.
What we're really focused on now is solving that little bit of the advertiser problem. So the original problem that I talked to you about, which is like discoverability and ability to purchase,
Right.
make that really simple. And so what we're doing is, unlike kind of a traditional marketplace where we kind of just say, here's all the stuff we have, you know, go browse it and see if there's something interesting.
Right.
We're actually taking a much more active approach in that whole sort of process. So what we do is, this is a really bad analogy, I got to stop saying it, but we're basically like a dating site for
Okay.
advertisers and publishers. So
Right.
we allow an advertiser to come in and say, hey, I'm looking for 18 to 35-year-old women interested in these topics in Southern California.
Mhm.
And what we do is we programmatically go and search our database of publishers, and we match them to those publishers,
Right.
and we send them a curated list of like 10 or 20 publishers that really kind of perfectly fit
Hit the bill, yeah.
what they're looking for.
Right. Gotcha.
So it's an active approach in that kind of matching,
Okay.
and eventually we will get to where we've got, you know, critical mass on both sides, and we'll open up a marketplace. But that's probably a few months away for us.
So tell me, how are you getting these advertisers on board? Are you going after the ad agencies themselves? Are you going, like, what's the best thing that you found to bring these advertisers on board?
Yeah, I mean, agencies are obviously great because they you know, deal with a few clients, and so you can kind of, if you can start to get their business, you end up getting their clients' business, which is great.
Right.
But to be honest, when we started to amass this group of publishers, we started getting phone calls.
Really?
You know, like, yeah, and that was kind of the thing that led us to want to solve the transactional problem rather than just solve the publisher problem. Was like, hey, you know, like, we have an opportunity here to actually really kind of match these two people together and make sure that they're working together. So yeah, our phone started ringing when we put the product out into the world, and these advertisers are like, this is great, like, I want to be able to buy, you know, all this stuff. And so we're
Wow.
like, okay, well, we'll build tools for you to be able to discover those in really
Holy
unique
cow!
ways.
So Paul, I'm a little shocked actually. So are we talking like brand managers from certain big brands? Or are we talking about your neighborhood like market? Like, who are we talking about?
Yeah. So much more downstream, right? So like Coca-Cola didn't call us, but you know, I always use this example because I find it so fascinating. There's a guy, I forget where he is, but like, I want to say North Carolina, and he's got a blog on bike polo, which
Bike
up
polo.
until,
Okay.
yeah, like, I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah.
But basically, it's a bunch of guys on bikes,
Okay.
and they there he is.
There he is.
And they
Oh, hey Jeff.
they
Joining you from my phone. Hopefully this works. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Nice. So yeah, like they play bike polo. They have a ball and they head like you would on a horse, but they're on bikes. And so I didn't even know this thing existed.
Right.
But this guy started selling ads, and I'm like, this is fascinating. Like, he was selling to local bike shops and like other little local businesses in his community, and that was sort of like the aha moment for me, which was like there are all these little microeconomies, these little niche hyper targeted pieces that if we can facilitate those transactions at scale,
Yeah.
there's something really really interesting here.
Okay,
So
so you were getting calls from some of these smaller sort of passionate people that have created products or services, and
yeah.
so maybe not the big brand managers, but definitely some of these smaller. Well, so you're thinking to yourself, well, how am I going to find good blogs for this guy to advertise on? How do I
Right.
fix that problem? How do I really make sure if I'm going to be a matchmaker, if I'm going to play the dating game, how do I make sure that that date really goes well? Is that am I getting that right?
Correct. Yeah, and so we had to make sure that we were matching them based on interest, right? Like we had to say, okay, you are interested in sports blogs in the Midwest. Like I'm going to give you sports blogs in the Midwest. Don't go scour the internet because that's going to take you hours and hours and hours.
Right.
I can do that with technology.
Okay. Wow. Wow. It sounds like a lot of work, Paul. How are you doing this,
is.
man?
Honestly, I have to give my team so much credit. Like we get really spun out sometimes. We're like, oh, we're not moving fast enough, and then we go out and talk to people, like yourself, and we realize just how far we've come with a very small team. I think we've now figured out that there is a meaningful opportunity here, and a very big one at that. And we're now going to scale up and go and actually hire the right people, hire people a lot smarter than us to go and crush those parts of the business because there's a monster opportunity here.
No, it's huge. It's a big market. So let's talk about your competitors. Obviously, we've got AdSense, but there's another one, buy sell ads.
Yes.
What's your feeling about them and their positioning, and how do you guys? Jeff and I have talked in the past about the fact that technology doesn't need to be a zero-sum game. There could be room for many competitors.
For sure. Especially in a market that's advertising. It's
Yeah.
like it's so big.
It's huge.
So I don't know Todd. I've heard really really good things about Todd. There's one other competitor that is here in the Bay Area, a guy named John Ramey, who's doing great things at a company called iSocket.
Yeah.
And they're doing some amazing things. I think that the fundamental difference is that, and I don't know this for a fact, but from what I can tell, neither buy sell ads or iSocket is particularly interested in the independent guy, the bike polo guy. Like the everyman that just wants to make $1,000 from the blog that they're incredibly passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
So most ad tech plays tend to go for the Wall Street Journal and Verizon because there's big dollars there. Like you want brand dollars, and that makes sense. But
Right.
we're at a philosophical level trying to democratize the entire world of advertising and make sure that every publisher, regardless of size or vertical or any of that stuff, has access to the best tools that they can.
Okay.
And that I think is it's a positioning thing. It's if you were to lay the two products side by side, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're pretty similar, but realistically, we're just trying to democratize it and bring those tools down to every last little publisher on the web.
Okay. All right. Well, so if you've got several thousand, let's say, publishers already in your network, how many of these people are actually being paired up with advertisers? Is anybody making any money right now? Is it still a little early days?
I mean, it's still early days for sure. There are people making money. We focus very much on the verticals that we know can get better CPMs. That are there's some sites that are really well designed and have great niche audiences that maybe people don't realize, but there's a ton of value there. So again, back to the bike polo guy, he might only have 1,000 people coming to his site, but it's 1,000 people that local bike shop sure as hell cares about.
Right. Yep.
So we're really focused on that. We just released the advertiser sort of programmatic matching thing.
Okay.
So that's starting to work really well.
Okay.
But yeah, still super early days.
How many guys are on your team right now? What's the head count?
Right. So there's myself and Jacob as two co-founders. We've got 2 developers,
Okay.
and then a couple marketing and community managers.
Gotcha. Well,
Um,
and so tell me about the distributed team bit. So I'm assuming everybody's kind of working out of their own homes and whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah, it's interesting. There's been a ton of good stuff written on it in the last few weeks. There's a lot of, there's WordPress, obviously. GitHub's another great company that's working mostly distributed. I think they got like 40 people in the Bay Area, but probably a few hundred elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, we really like it. It adds a little bit of complexity to, I think you have to be really good at communicating, and I think you have to have the right tools to be able to communicate when you need to communicate.
okay,
And
so let's get into it. What tools are you using?
Yeah, what tools? Yeah.
Right. So our sort of like the thing we use all day long is HipChat.
HipChat.
And so we have a ton of services tied into HipChat. So what's a good example? But like our exceptions on the site, our GitHub's tied in. So like honestly, it helps me as a non-technical founder like really keep track.
See what the
of
hell's
cadence
going
of
on.
the
Is
team.
anybody
anybody
committing code? Are we getting errors? What's really happening?
Totally. Yeah, so like that's a super good way to keep pulse on the team and without really like needing to like bug them and be like, hey, what's happening with this? You can just see it in real time.
Yeah.
The other thing we use is a really cool sort of task management tool called Sprintly. You guys heard of that one?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
It's a dude named Joe Stump out of Portland, and it's just like this incredible. It's kind of the same approach we're taking to ad tech that they took to like task managers. Just incredibly beautiful, really simple to use, and so that really helps me as well. Kind of keep a good cadence on.
Sprint.ly. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I like this dashboard. This is nice.
It's beautiful and like really really simple to
Holy
use.
cow! Yeah, it looks like they got a little micro feed there, and they've got a little charts. Wow.
Yeah, and they're working on some really cool stuff. So, use tools like that to make sure that like I, as a non-technical founder, I'm keeping good watch and cadence on the team. And then Jacob really runs product and dev. So Jacob is incredibly sort of tuned into the guys, and they just have like this great culture of being able to talk whenever they need to, but like putting their heads down and going deep when they need to as well.
And so what would you say? I'm sorry to interrupt, but was it once a day, once every couple of days? You guys get into a team meeting? Do you guys do any of that?
Yeah, we definitely do. Every morning, 8:30 on the nose.
I like that. I like that.
8:30. That's early for a programmer.
I know, right? I think you probably like secretly hate me for it, but
you're like, oh my god, I gotta wake up.
Or is this happening in underwear on HipChat?
Oh yeah, no, it's totally underwear on HipChat. Like we've never ever turned video on because that would just be bad. But like this morning was a great example. It's like 8:30, we're on the nose in a call, but I see like I wake up, I probably wake up at 6 in the morning, and I start seeing code commits like from 5:30.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So like our dudes are just like they're just like an incredible team, and honestly, I don't think there's a lot of teams in the world that could have done as much as we've done in a short amount of time with as little money.
Right.
And that's really why I think we're the kind of team to go and get this one.
Well, I have to tell you, Paul, programmers specifically, I think really, really value being left alone, being able to work from their place. If you're offering that, they're able to do it in their way, and as long as they're committing code and I guess meeting their milestones, that is a huge perk. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, you mentioned having to put their head down and really kind of like bury themselves in the code sometimes.
Right.
I'm intimately familiar with that problem. As a developer and product manager, I try to do so much more, but when I have to go do a programming task, a lot of times I tell the people around me, I'm like, it sucks. I know I have to like close my door for 4 hours and turn off the internet practically.
Yeah.
It's really hard to prevent those distractions, like if you're in an office or something.
Yeah. Jacob actually wrote a script that like is like a do not disturb for everything else in his life.
Oh.
Yeah.
So like it's not just do not disturb in HipChat, but it like literally shuts down every other notification on his computer.
That's awesome.
And actually
puts in like fake DNS entries. You have to like stop yourself from going to Facebook or checking your email sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And Raphael actually, just a little quirky thing that he does, but he has a timer on his laptop, that like 25 minutes is his runtime, and at 25 minutes it shuts him out for 5 minutes. He gets up, he walks around, he does his thing.
That's cool.
That would drive me insane if somebody like my computer shut down in the middle of an email. I'd freak out, but
now,
it works for him.
So let's talk about this distributed workforce. This is a topic near and dear to my heart. How do you deal with the isolation? Maybe how do you deal with I'm assuming your wife works. When she gets home, you're like, oh, honey, and you start yapping away because there's nobody else to talk to. Yeah. I do that with my wife. She gets home. She's like, well, just leave me alone. Just give me 5 minutes. Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. You just pounce on her at the door and like, hey, we want to talk about some stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, okay, so the isolation part, I don't really ever feel isolated because I'm constantly talking to my guys and like constantly, I spend a lot of time out of the office and out doing customer dev or, investor meetings or whatever it is. So I spend a lot of time out of the office. The one thing that I do, which is like my big release, is like right around lunchtime, I start to get a little itchy if I'm in the office, and I live in a really cool part of San Francisco, so I'll strap on my running shoes and I'll go for a run and just like, basically shut off for 45 minutes and then come back and kind of get back into the afternoon. So that really helps me out. Cool. And yeah, I mean, if I feel isolated, I'll just go and get into a coffee shop or I find that I don't know about other cities, but in San Francisco especially, like there's so many companies that have opened their doors to us. They're like, hey, we've got a couple extra desks. Like anytime you want to come downtown and work,
that's great.
We do that all the time. Like if we got a meeting that's more than 3 or 4 people, we'll go and take up somebody's office and go and interact with some other people.
That is so great. So what about the work-life balance? I'm sorry, Jeff. How do you deal with that? I mean, are you working all the time, all hours? Like, do you shut it off at like 9 p.m.? Like that's it. No more. Like, how do you deal with that?
I'm probably pretty bad at it. If you asked me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm pretty good at it. And you ask my wife, she'd be like, no, he's terrible at it. Yeah, but I try and take like one day a weekend, and I like, we'll go up to Marin and go hiking. Like we really like to do that, and for that, I pretty much try and shut off. It really depends though. Like if we're like trying to get a release out the door or there's something major that's like on deck, then we'll work but we try not to like burn people out too quickly.
So do you have teammates in other time zones, like on the other side of the world? Does it keep you up sometimes? You're like checking emails in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
We don't actually. Like everybody's in this time zone, which is kind of
huge.
I can't say we planned that.
Well, so I was going to ask another question about the remote working. Is there's obviously the advantages to being in Silicon Valley. Are there any physical advantages to being distributed? Not just the convenience of working at home and the freedom, but are there any advantages to sort of like spreading the team out, or maybe evangelism or that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think evangelism is probably like, just having a foot on the ground in various communities. But I think like the monster absolute like hugest advantage to any company going distributed is you hire people wherever they are. Like there's like a killer dev in Toronto or Boston or Austin. We hire them, because we can, and we don't need to like. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's a day in the future where like we want to bring everybody to San Francisco and like have a real office and stuff like that. At this stage, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Maybe it does in the future, but for now, it's like we put out a job ad, and it's not just San Francisco and Silicon Valley. It's anywhere in the world.
Well, so here's a random question then too. When you're hiring remote workers, like let's say they're in Toronto, how's that interview process go?
Yeah.
Just generally speaking, do you ship them into the office and they meet the team for a day, or do you do it mostly virtually?
So the couple guys that we've hired, we definitely got together in person. We actually went to them, but that was because it was in Vancouver, so it made sense for me to go home and see family and stuff like that. And so that worked out well. But yeah, I mean, I would imagine if we'd hire, somebody from Toronto, we would certainly get them to, we wouldn't want to hire without actually spending time with that person.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I think, maybe there's a little added expense to that. Maybe there's a little added sort of complexity to that. But being able to hire anybody anywhere in the world is a huge advantage.
Oh, that's massive. Yeah. It's massive. So, all right. So you're basically bootstrapped, or not bootstrapped, but you're basically funded. You guys have got your 1.0 out. You're going to start to go off to the publishers, maybe figure out that piece, or the advertisers rather, and get that matchmaking working. You've got the sort of algorithmic matchmaking thing working right now. So it sounds like you got a good 6 month roadmap here. What is there? Are there some other big thing that you guys want to do that is out in the distance that you want to share?
Yes, is the short answer. So we have. I would say that this direct sale piece is one of our very many steps in what we hoped to be able to do to completely, for lack of a better word, disrupt ad tech. And I shouldn't even say ad tech because it's a word that kind of sends shivers down my spine. But yeah, just like make sure that we have a whole bunch of really cool stuff in the pipeline that I can't necessarily talk about. But I'd say that the what you see now, like the product that you see now, is one of hundreds of steps we want to take to completely kind of turn this world on its head.
Wow. Well, I have to tell you, it seems like the big problem, in my opinion, is getting the advertisers. But if you're saying you can handle that, you're getting these guys calling you. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think at scale, it's a huge problem. I think it's a huge challenge, and we're gonna have to really focus on, especially as we start to move upstream, and some of the ideas that we have coming down the pipe are really about sort of long tail and brand advertisers. Okay. So I don't disagree with you that that's a big challenge.
It's gonna be a big one.
Yeah. But I know that if we're able to prove the model at the size that we are now, right, then we can hire the best people in the world, and we can scale up to that.
Let me ask you something. So, Paul, this is a little bit off topic, or sort of. But have you guys considered approaching the commission junctions and the affiliate networks, and basically getting some of these sort of vertical, let's say, products in health, products in, I don't know, female, products in male, and then basically saying, all right, now we've got several companies that make products for these niches. At the very least, we can throw some of these ads on some of these bloggers, and maybe if instead of getting the payment up front, do sort of like a middleman,
like a CPA type thing.
Yeah.
So our first, I don't know if you guys saw, but we did this really cool integration with VigLink, which is an amazing affiliate network that partnered with about 30,000 retailers worldwide.
Okay.
And what we did with them, so this is very publisher focused again, but what we did with them is we allowed our publishers to simply one-click install VigLink on their sites. And what VigLink does is it captures all the links that can be mapped to an advertiser,
right,
through affiliate, and
very
automatically turns those links into affiliate links.
That's
very
awesome.
Interesting.
And so we launched that a couple months ago, and it's been working really well. That was sort of to kind of hint at what I was talking about earlier. That's like our first step in the direction of platform.
Yeah, I see that.
So yeah. So,
oh man, Paul, you guys are gonna make some money, man. You guys gonna make some money. Max is not. Max definitely knows what he's doing. You guys gotta make some money. If I had a good chunk of cash lying around, I think I'd throw it at you guys, definitely. Yeah.
So I see you guys have a blog post here about WordPress and Skyscraper sitting in a tree. Let me put my product hat on for the publishers.
Cool.
The ease of use for them to get started on this. Obviously, WordPress is like most of the 20% of the internet or whatever it is. They've got a huge mind share.
Yeah.
So you're making it really easy for WordPress people. What about Tumblr? You guys have, seemingly maybe a matching design aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
Like Tumblr kind of took this fresh approach of making it easy and design clean and sort of attracted the younger crowd. How do are you guys? And it looks like your blog is powered by Tumblr, I think. Do you integrate easily with Tumblr? I know they're pretty open about integrations, and how's that publisher base, approaching you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you're correct in saying that WordPress does power most of the internet and most of our user base. So we focus on WordPress first because they have the plugin ecosystem, so we could develop that and get that out into the world pretty quickly. But that said, I would say it makes it like 1% easier for WordPress users. It's still super, super dead simple to put on any CMS.
That's good.
Great.
So like if you're on Tumblr, Squarespace, any of those CMSs, it's simply a code insert.
Very nice.
Cool.
And we don't have the opportunity to build the same kind of plugin for Tumblr. What we think we'll probably end up doing down the line, though, is building custom themes for all these CMSs
Yeah,
with Skyscraper pre-installed and get them into the theme ecosystems.
Oh, very
that's a
cool.
great
That's
idea.
a great
Yeah,
idea. Yeah.
That'll
yeah,
probably open up a lot of bloggers to even thinking about this as an opportunity. They
exactly,
may not have
exactly.
even known before that they could put banners on their template,
Yeah.
or where to put them on their template, and that sort of thing.
Exactly, yeah. So like, that allows us to get into those ecosystems
Yeah,
and continue to the kind of design aesthetic. Like
yeah,
here's a theme, it's got Skyscraper in it. You get all this ad management stuff
to-
for free.
Yeah.
totally.
Away you go.
And this is why I mentioned Tumblr, because I think for some reason the Tumblr user base is less technical. The people on WordPress are like uh, self-proclaimed self-publishers, like they're
Right.
trying to be bloggers, whereas people on Tumblr are like kids who just signed up and started, posting stuff that people
For sure.
that might have an audience.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Pinterest almost, right? They like accidentally have an audience, but it's so valuable, and they didn't even realize they could monetize it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Exactly. It's definitely a world that we're that and Squarespace are two.
Okay.
And actually, there's a company called Verb as well,
Oh,
and
yeah,
they do
Verb.
some
Oh, sure.
really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like really starting to think about talking to them. In fact, we've had conversations with a few of them already
Okay.
to start kind of integrating ourselves into custom themes there.
Wow, very
Very
cool.
cool.
I have to tell
I
you,
love to hear
man,
it.
I see a bright future for you guys. I'm looking forward to catching up with you in a few months and seeing how things are progressing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that very much. It's an exciting project. We're really happy to be solving a real problem, and like,
Yeah.
our team just is we're gonna run through brick walls to make sure that we solve this, and yeah, I think we're off to a good
Oh,
start.
that's great, and there's so much money in this, man. So huge. This is such a huge market. Yeah.
Yeah,
don't do it
I
for
mean,
money.
for everyone listening out there, I think there's nothing more better for your team than to have a noble problem to be solving.
For
I
sure.
think this is a clear problem.
Yeah.
There's like no question about that.
Yeah.
All these publishers need help monetizing their
For sure.
their quality content that's
For
out
sure.
there.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Like if you're working on a product or a company that you don't have that,
Mhm.
like that's a long road or a long painful
Yeah,
road
yeah,
to like
to be
maybe an
slogging it.
outcome. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah. So like we really think about today, and we think about like our mission, and we're having a ton of fun doing it.
that's cool.
And so like where are we going? Like how much money there is at this? Like it doesn't really cross our minds at all. We're just like we want to solve this problem, and we're having a good time doing it.
All right,
Well,
well,
I think it's amazing, and we Amul and I just talked recently about the down economy helping some companies. I think you guys are truly creating jobs,
Yeah.
for with this platform. So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just
like-
think it's a great thing to help support mom and pop publishers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's kind of like look what Etsy did for that like down economy,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
Exactly.
you lose your job, what are you going to do? You're going to go do something with your hands. So you're going to either make something or you're going to write something, and like
Right.
Yeah.
you should be able to do that in this world.
right.
And I think and we really want to help those people do that.
Very cool. Well,
awesome.
I hope you continue on with your content marketing strategy. I think it's really clever. It really works. It's a
Definitely, thank
long-term play, but it really works. It definitely pays
Yeah.
off.
Definitely, no. I think it's a great play for us. I mean, we're in the right space for it. I think we need to have the best blog about blogging
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff
Yeah.
just kind of naturally.
Yeah,
So
Sure.
absolutely. And really
Yeah, we
briefly
focus-
before we cut it today, are you guys doing any guest blogging? Have you found that to work? Or?
we're definitely starting to. Yeah, I've done a couple posts for some of our like the publisher network that we have
Okay.
on very specific topics. I'm definitely starting to write more on just sort of more like entrepreneurial startup stuff and trying to get like as I experienced the world for myself, I
Right.
definitely throw it down. I actually was a screenwriter for a few years in LA.
Oh,
So
is that, oh, that's why you're here now.
Yeah.
Okay.
so
all right.
yeah, so writing's definitely close to my heart. So I think I've hopefully found a new avenue to
Yeah.
explore some of that.
Awesome. I love it. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff and I are going to have to make a trip up there, and we're definitely going to come and check you guys out.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to meet you guys in person.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks again, Paul. Is there any? What's a good way of getting a hold of you?
My email address is paul@skyscraper.io. Ping me anytime. We have multiple support channels on the site, and I'm Goodburga on. So it's Goodburga. It's my like handle from high school that I've never changed, but it's
Goodburga.
GOODBURGA on Twitter.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, Twitter's usually the best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. I love it, man.
Great.
And as far as you're looking for a UI UX guy, right now?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely looking for that guy.
Cool.
And we've got a couple candidates that we're working with closely now that hopefully will close that loop pretty soon.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks again for being on the show today, man. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you guys. It
Yeah,
was great fun.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
I appreciate it too. Thank you guys.
All right, bro. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later.
All right, later. Bye-bye.
Bye.